Hi, and welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Maureen Hadley, a senior lecturer at the University of Newcastle in Australia. Today, we're going to be talking about reasoning, and in particular, the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning, which will be relevant to your critical thinking in law and to forming and, justifying and potentially critiquing legal arguments. So in law, you may be asked to engage in critical thinking in relation to a key case or a key principle, or to evaluate a doctrinal decision or action in terms of its consistency with legal authority. For example, you might be asked to write about whether you think a particular case was decided correctly, or whether a particular legal argument presented by a plaintiff or a defendant is convincing. Now, when seeking to develop a valid, logical, legal argument in response to a question such as this, you can use inductive and deductive reasoning. These two reasoning types essentially offer two different ways of constructing a sequence of reasoning that helps you get from point A to point B, that helps you use evidence to come to a particular conclusion. So inductive reasoning is a bottom-up, more exploratory form of reasoning. It involves starting with an observation, looking for a pattern, and then once you've identified that pattern, generalizing its applicability to the matter at hand. Now, because you're identifying a pattern and then generalizing or hypothesizing about what will happen in future, you don't know whether this particular outcome that you're putting forward is certain. It's not a certainty. However, according to this reasoning chain, it is a possible or plausible outcome. Okay. Now, if, for example, a legal academic is looking for the existence of a legal rule by analysing a series of earlier case decisions and then constructing that rule, they would be engaging in inductive reasoning. And you can also see this type of reasoning in judgments in the precedent cases. So where the judges are looking back to earlier authority to try and find this general principle. Now, in terms of deductive reasoning is a more top-down form of reasoning. And in this type of reasoning, you start with the general rule or the general statement, and then you work your way down to your conclusion by drawing upon various pieces of evidence along the way. So providing that the initial premise is true, a conclusion reached by this form of reasoning will also always be true. Now, a good example of this form of reasoning in law is when a judge, for example, uses well-established legal rules to resolve a particular problem. They state the rule, then they apply it to the facts at hand. So hopefully that gives you just a quick introduction and a helpful introduction to the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning and how that might be relevant to some of the critical thinking you do at law school.